reconnect. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Reconnect. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So today we've actually got a special guest coming on who knows a lot about Rh negative, and the reason why I've done that is because when I do the live chats, when I do the videos, a lot of people comment on the Rh negative videos, so I thought it'd be nice if we had someone that knew a little bit more about the Rh negative, explain things to us, or me. Certainly I'm not an expert on Rh negative. I just sort of followed where the trail went, and until that person joins with us, obviously you can ask me any questions, as always, and I'll just talk until then. So I was just going to talk about the Anunnaki. I'm just having a look to see. Sorry, there was invite another host and go live together. I think that's not the person I'm waiting for. Sorry. So yes, the Anunnaki. So I'm having to reread the book, Lost Book of Enki, and I don't know if you guys have heard of that. So basically it's Sumerian tablets again, thousands of years old, and they talk about the Anunnaki from the get-go. So it talks about Alula, who was a king and then got dethroned by Anu. Now I have a feeling that Alula is Allah, because he was the one that came here on his own to Earth first. So I think that might be why we've got, the Muslims have a god called Allah, because I think his name is Alalula. Thames Iron Workers wrote, "What about that UFO last month?" Not quite sure which UFO last month. Not quite sure which UFO. Things have really been heating up with the UFOs. So I'm not quite sure which one. The person that I'm waiting for is here. So if you can do whatever you need to do to allow me to accept you. I don't know how that works. Someone's wrote, IPS has wrote, "Are you an expert? What qualifies you?" 30 years of research, talking to paranormal people. I mean, you could argue that to be an expert, you need to be in college or university and have a degree. But my problem with that is they're run or owned or funded by the Rockefeller company that don't want us to know this information. So to be honest with you, I have actually got more knowledge in this field than people that went to college and universities that's got degrees, etc. I'm Rh negative. Talk about it, because I'm just waiting for my special guest to click a button. Oh, there it is. Sorry, connect. I'll introduce this person. I don't know if you can. I'm just going to put the volume up. Hello there. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're more than welcome. Okay, so looks like I've got someone that doesn't like me on there saying, is your tinfoil hat the same as your research? Well, like I said, I've actually proved that my research, if you watch my videos, I point out that the people that claim to know everything end up being funded by the Rockefellers, and I'm sure you probably know that yourself. What can I call you today?
Yes. My name's Philomena. Yes. And what do I call you?
Our true history.
All right. That's just fine. Yeah.
So Philomena's came along because so many people were talking about Rh negatives, and they were asking many questions, and obviously I had not as much information as Philomena does. So if you could sort of just fill us in on if we start with where you think the Rh negative comes from, because it's a blood type that is different. So
yeah, absolutely. So let me start sort of from the beginning. So in the study of genetics, you can only inherit the traits of of what your ancestors have passed along to you. So if all humans evolved from the same genetic set of ancestors as mainstream claims, then blood type of all people should be compatible, but it's not. And let me explain why. So there are four main types of ABO blood type groups. There's A, B, AB, and O. Uh, for Rh negatives, we make up 5 to 15% of the total human population. And we are predominantly from Caucasian, Middle Eastern lines, or a mix of those. There's less than 1% of occurrence of Rh negatives in Asian cultures, and I think it's less than 5% in some of the other cultures. So it's pretty rare. And of course, the biggest and most well-known blood group for that are the Basques of Europe, who are in between France and Spain, and who I believe you've covered in a lot of your research as being, descendants of probably the Cro-Magnon. So the things about Rh negative blood that make it different. So Rh positive folks have antigens or proteins on the outside of their blood cell matrix, the way the blood cell is actually created. And so the D antigen is what determines whether or not you are an Rh negative. The D antigen is what allows illness and disease to access your blood cell and make you ill. Now, for Rh negative, for Rh positive folks, that D antigen is on the outside of the cell. For Rh negatives, that D antigen is on the inside of the cell, which gives them greater immunity to many diseases, including COVID, and also aids in a quicker recovery process of disease if you do get sick. And that is all science. You can Google the hell out of that and find out for yourself. So that is one thing about us that makes us really different. Now, Rh negatives can donate blood to everybody, and they will not suffer an organ failure, an organ transplant failure, or a blood transfusion failure, or an allergic reaction that could kill them. However, if Rh negative people take blood, organ, or tissue transfusions from Rh positive folks, it will kill us because there is a hemolytic allergic reaction between the two different kinds of blood structure. Now, I am not in any way advocating superiority or inferiority of any race, creed, color, religion, politics, or others. So don't get it twisted, people. I'm not playing that. All I'm saying is that these two blood types are different, and down to the cellular structure. So how they operate is different. There was a cytokine study done by Harvard University in 2016. And what they did was they took 500 cells from Rh positive blood folks and Rh negative blood folks, and they exposed these cells to gamma radiation and to electromagnetic current. And what they found out was that Rh negatives have their cell matrix handles, processes.
Back.
Naturally occurring thing. Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
I can now. I don't know if you did or it was me.
No,
now
it might have been
delay.
me.
Oh, right, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And please feel free to interrupt me if I'm just rambling on.
I've learned so much in this short space of time already. It's amazing.
Okay. So, electromagnetic grid is what surrounds our planet. It's what holds our atmosphere. It interacts with the sun and the planets and all those things. It's also what creates a human aura. And because Rh negative cell structure holds, processes, and transmits electromagnetic energy differently, this causes a number of interesting effects. In fact, I think that is what is responsible for our more finely tuned psychic array that many Rh negatives experience having. So, right down to the cell structure, we operate a little differently. Now, O negative type blood can only receive transfusions from other O negatives. Otherwise, they're dead. So it's really a big deal to know your compatibility. It can cause problems in pregnancy and just all kinds of stuff.
Someone's asked, what about AB plus?
So AB blood is the rarest occurrence. It's only 3% of the human population. Both AB negative and AB positive is the rarest blood type.
So where do you feel this? Because obviously it's not, as far as I'm aware, no other species has a blood type that can cause these sort of problems. Did you, or do you know anything
That is
other?
correct. Yeah,
Which makes
in the animal kingdom and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that's fine.
In the animal kingdom and things, it doesn't occur like this. So O negatives are 9% of all human population. And as I said, they're very special. They can only receive blood and transfusions from other O negatives. Otherwise, they will have hemolytic reaction and die. Would like to point something out very quickly, and so please bear with me, folks. I believe this is what is at the heart of whoever or whatever is stealing women and children around the world because Rh negative blood cannot be cloned. You cannot grow blood organs or tissue from Rh negatives in a lab. It is the most sought after blood product on the black market besides adrenochrome. And O negative is the blood type that all emergency rooms, hospitals all over the world rely upon to save lives. So it's in high demand. And here in the States, for example, less than 3% of our entire national blood supply is O negative. So that's a big problem. And so I think when you go down all those rabbit holes and roads, sooner or later you're going to find out that I think not everybody, not all these women and children, to be taking for sex trafficking. I think a lot of these folks are being harvested and used and farmed for their blood products. China sucks because it's less than 1% of Asian populations have Rh negative blood. How could they pick them out? That's a great question. No visual indicators, but so 60 to 70% of the indigenous people of North America are O negative. And many of those folks, even up in Canada, it's twice that number. So approximately 7,000 people a year, women and children, are going missing in the United States, and almost twice that in Canada. So if I were an asshole and I wanted to go steal some folks and use them for those purposes, I would look for the biggest blood group that represents that, and that would be the indigenous. So I really think that has a lot to do with it. So what?
Sorry, gone. I think you froze again. So hopefully she'll be able to come back. Just reading some questions here. Caption in aliens in the paranormal are demons. They still have access to lower heaven. Someone's wrote, please finish explaining the GABA with the blood type. So unfortunately, Philomena's disconnect home. I'm sure she'll request again. Stevens wrote, is there a normal blood type for most African Americans? Philomena will probably be able to answer that when she comes back on. So is there alien DNA in our bodies? Cliff has asked. So to me, this is my research, I think that the Rh negative is the Anunnakis, which is an alien race. So I think the people with, this is just my research, I think the people that ended up with the Rh negatives were the ones that the Anunnaki bred with the humans that they had already created 200,000 years prior. So over 200,000 years, humans were created at the beginning, and then they spread, and then Philomena's here. Then they spread, and then the Anunnaki ended up having relationships with them. Hopefully, we've got her back on, and I'll just reread that question out for Philomena once she connects. Any second now. Hi, Philomena. Sorry you disappeared there, but someone's asked.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Please finish explaining about GABA with the blood type. I don't know if you'd already.
Oh, okay. Right. So the hemolytic factor happens when an Rh negative mother is pregnant with an Rh positive father. It causes an allergic reaction that can kill the baby. That is why they have to use ROGAM in order to suppress the mama's immune system so that she can carry the baby to term. Otherwise, um, all kinds of things can happen and terminate the pregnancy because your body doesn't recognize it's the same kind of human.
You
And
mentioned.
as far as, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Sorry, Karen. You carry on. Sorry, I thought there was a pause.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay. So, in line with what you were asking before, of what are the physical traits, there are some physical traits if you'd like me to list them. So, yes, and Rh negative does show up in African American or African bloodlines as well. It's in all human bloodlines. It's just in some it's pretty rare. I think it occurs in African lines. I think about 3 to 6% or something like that. Um, so there are some physical traits of Rh negatives that I can go ahead and read for you folks and see if any of you relate to that. Many Rh negatives report having extra ribs, vertebrae, or even webbed toes. We have a natural affinity to animals. Even wild animals are drawn to us and don't seem to be very afraid. Rh negatives cannot be cloned or grown in a lab. We have a larger than average cranium. Eyes tend to range from blue-green to hazel. We have high foreheads, lower blood pressure, and lower body temperatures. That is very typical of Rh negatives. We do seem to have a sensitivity to heat and sunlight, or photophobia as it's called. We have a high tolerance for physical pain and a high resistance to medications. Rh negatives are the majority who report about alien experiences and paranormal experiences. And we tend to have a piercing gaze. So some of the mental traits, and these might even be more significant for folks. Most Rh negatives feel from a very young age that we don't belong here, that not that we're better than other people, but we're just different. We have a sense of feeling different. And we have a powerful sense of wanting to help. For myself, when I was younger, I wanted to play Captain Save-A-Ho and rescue all my friends from their stupidity, which of course just ended up for more trouble for me. But that is typical of Rh negatives. They all want to help folks in some way. They want to help make things better. Many of us seem to experience low-level telepathy and can even sense one another when we meet without even knowing that we're Rh negative. And I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of this information I actually learned through the comments sections of my videos because, I started asking folks, am I nuts? Do any of you have these kind of experiences? And people were just ding, 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 ding by the hundreds saying that they could really relate. And so then we knew we were onto something. Most Rh negatives are heavily empathic and can actually become physically ill if they're around really abusive or negative type people. I think that most Rh negatives are very spiritual people. They range from pagans to Christians to Muslims to every religious group on the planet. I think that they are just all really strongly drawn to spirituality. We are natural lie detectors. I can smell bullshit at 100 paces. And I think that has to do with the fact that, if we're surrounded by an electromagnetic field, it's really that interacts with other people's fields, other people's bubbles. Somehow our higher sensitivity to that psychic matrix allows us to really get a feel for people, negative or positive. We can really tap in and define whether or not they're a danger or not. Most people either find us very intimidating or very comforting. So I've worked.
I think we've lost Philomena again. Just to let anyone know that this will be put onto YouTube. So if you've missed the beginning part where Philomena was explaining a lot of stuff, which is fantastic, I'll put this on YouTube at some point. It'll be on my channel. Philomena has her own TikTok channel, so I'll ask her to. I think it's called. She's just got. I was just reading what it was called, but she's got her own TikTok channel, so I'm sure she'll request to come back on. Sarah's asked, Mantis, friend or foe? I have been told they have been with me my whole life. Now, Mantis is the praying mantis type aliens. I'm guessing you're referring to. Now, they're not enemies, but they're not. I mean, they're not evil, but friendly in terms of making sure you're 100% fine. Probably not. But they are empathic and they do care about the plan, because of your soul. Whoever your soul was before may have been in a which has happened before, been inside a praying mantis. So you know your past life may have been to do with praying mantises. We've got Mother. So what was your sorry, Philomena? What's your channel for people to go and chat to you
Oh,
direct?
it's Mother Abigail 74 here on TikTok. I don't have any other kind of channel yet, although I've been told I should probably make an archive on YouTube or something. Um, I took that out of Stephen King's old novel, The Stand, because I feel like this is a common trait of RH negatives too, is that we really feel like we have a mission to help and that we have a destiny to help in some way. So I chose the moniker Mother Abigail to just sort of symbolically call everybody to the cornfield to talk together and try to figure out what's going on and what it means to be an RH negative.
Okay. Yasmin's wrote, "Why is it limited info on our blood type?" Um, I'm guessing that's RH negative. Why is there limited information out there on it?
Oh, well, so doesn't that make sense? I mean, 90% of the information on RH negatives you actually have to buy to get access to the information. And I believe that is because, like everything else on our planet, our true history, we're a race with amnesia. And I think that there are a lot of reasons that they don't want to educate us about our blood type or what makes it special. Um, I believe very strongly that if we had the full spectrum of real history that's locked in the Vatican and 100 other places, I think the entire course of history would have to be rewritten. And I think we'd all find out we have a lot more in common than we don't. And so I've heard a lot of nonsense over the years about, oh, RH negatives, we're evil, we're seed of the serpent, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know, but I reckon there's a lot of RH positive folks that have done some horrible things throughout history. So I don't think evil is specific to anybody or any race. Um, but I do think that good and evil are very real. And I think we are at a crux in time when you need to make a stand and choose to either serve yourself or serve others. And so I'm just trying to offer a narrative to folks that, it's not all doom and gloom. You're still breathing. There's still hope. We can still resist and we can still make good things happen in the world despite all the other bad things that are going on.
Yeah, well said, well said. Stephen Cross has just wrote something. Obviously, I said earlier that can't be true because it doesn't line up with the biblical information. So I was just going to point out to Stephen
Mm,
that unfortunately, the Bible, as Philomena was saying, our true history has been changed, and the Bible isn't the be all and end all. And if you watch any of my videos, you'll realise that there's older texts that the Bible's copy. So
hmm
um, I don't mean to bash people about the Bible, but if you're gonna throw the Bible at me, at least learn the history behind the Bible, where that got it from.
hmm
Then okay. So I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Uh, so Stevens wrote, "Is there a normal blood type for most African Americans?"
The majority of African Americans actually tend to be B blood type or A blood type. But of course, folks vary in nature. And I'd like to add something on to what you were just saying about the Bible history. So the Nag Hammadi, the cuneiform tablets, the Old Testament, um, the Enuma Elish, the Atraxas, the Enki and the Old World Order, they all describe the Anunnaki and their genetic breeding program. Even the Bible talks about the generation born with sharp teeth, with the look of scales of dragons. And so these are all earlier known writings, and all the great cultures of the world, Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, India, Inca, the Maya, the Toltec, they all have pyramids. Obviously, between that and the megalithic structures that remain, there was at one time a world civilization, or at least communication between cultures. So the Bible is not the only source of ancient history in association with the breeding program. There are a lot of other cultures that talk about it. So, just try to keep.
Oh, Familia's gone again. Apparently, there's her sister's on the chat here with us, reading the messages, and she's wrote that there's a storm apparently where Philomena is. So Stephen Cross wrote, so Nephilims. I was interested to. I was going to ask Philomena her thoughts on the Nephilims in terms of blood groups as well. So I'm just scrolling down. I'm just waiting for Philomena to come back as well. Someone asked, where do you acquire this information? I'm guessing you're referring to Philomena. Obviously, she's, as you can see, absolutely clued up on everything. But for me, I have had 30 plus years of research talking to the people that you've probably seen on Ancient Aliens. I chat to them. I talk to clairvoyants, spiritualists, remote viewers, that kind of information. Not from a university, because universities are controlled, absolutely controlled. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see how many times do I pull out someone that's trying to debunk something, and bang, they ended up, or they work for a university, bang, and that university is funded by the Rockefellers, bang, the Rockefellers, we know, except for maybe one or two of the Rockefellers, do not want our true history out there. And that's and that goes for the Smithsonian, who is also funded, or actually was started by the Rockefellers. So I think my information from that side of it is more realistic than universities. I'm just scrolling down. I'm just waiting for Philomena hopefully to be able to get back on. People believe in the paranormal to make life more interesting. That's from the facts person. I don't say you should believe in anything. Obviously people believe in what they want to believe. Sandy's right. I can see other people's emotions. That's interesting. What, as an aura? That'd be really cool. Okay, Philomena's asked him to come back on. Just Philomena's back. Hi there.
Hello, I'm so sorry. We have a whopper of a storm here on the coast, and it's making life difficult. I apologize.
No problem at all. I can't remember where you was now. Sorry, if you was still in.
Oh, I was just making the point.
That's a whopper of a storm. Unfortunately, you've gone again. Um, oh, what a shame. I was. Oh, ah, she's gone again. Oh, what a shame. Are you there?
Isn't it interesting that I keep getting falling off? Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, you're all
Jeez.
good. Carry on.
So what it was basically saying is just that so many of these ancient cultures share information and similarities from their archaeological structures to their histories to their origin mysteries, that you cannot discount information just because it may not fit your paradigm or your belief system. You should try to keep an open mind, because the more that we discover, the more that we learn, the more that we find out that all of these ancient cultures, they must have had a central narrative. They must at one time been joined, because there's no other way to explain all the similarities that go on. And many of them report, yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, someone asked the Nephilim and blood type. What's your thoughts on that?
So I believe that there's two things going on now. I do believe that Rh negatives are some sort of hybrid. But I do not believe in the cultural narrative that we are somehow the enemy, children of the serpent. I think, given all of the other historical propaganda that goes on in the world, um, we are a race, we're human beings have amnesia. And I believe that actually, in fact, we might be here to help bridge the memory gap in some way. Genetic memory is a scientific fact. And this is this is something that I think goes back to the very olden times. Most Rh negatives have a real interest in ancient history, quantum mechanics, science. We really are predominantly more fact-based people, not necessarily emotional people. And I'll only say that because that is a trait that is described by many, many Rh negatives.
So it seems
So
that
I
you.
think where there's smoke, there's fire.
Sorry, there's a little bit of delay. So it seems to me that you've done a lot of research back into sort of Mesopotamia and things like that. What made
Mhm,
you get started
mhm.
on that? Is it to do with the bloodlines, or was it something you've been interested in?
Well, I tell you what, if you'll indulge me, I want to tell you about the personal experience that got me started in the whole research about Rh negatives. My sister Val and I were young, and we had just lost our parents and our whole family. It was just her and I, and we weren't drinking or smoking. We had just moved to a new city. We were living in an apartment. We were doing very well, and of course, we were grieving. I had just lost my husband and only child the year before, and then we both lost our parents. So we were in a lot of grief. And one night, my sister and I have always been very close. And one night, my sister and I, our rooms were right next door to each other. And anybody who has kids can tell you that when they hear a certain tone of voice in their children, they know there's something really wrong. They're hurt, they're scared. The instinct is to run there and find out what's going on. I was dead asleep, and I heard my sister call out my name in my head. And I was literally up and out of the bed and running down the hall to her bedroom to find out what the hell was going on. Two young women in the city, you never know what's happening. So, there's like less than 20 feet to her bedroom. I run down this hall, and we never shut our doors when we were sleeping. Our doors are always open. And I go around the corner to go through her doorway to go to her, see what's going on. I shit you not. I bounced off of nothing in that doorway and got slammed back into the wall behind me. And what I saw was, and this is 25 years ago, folks. There was no internet. Nobody was talking about the Hat Man phenomenon. Nothing like that was going on.
Uh, you've frozen again. So just while Philomene is frozen, I'll just read out one of the questions.
In the
Richard.
bed. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I saw was a being that looked like it reached the ceiling in a black coat and a fedora hat with glowing red eyes. And as I said, we didn't drink or smoke. We're not crazy. Uh, and I bounced off of nothing in that doorway into the wall behind me. And here's my sister looking at me from her bed, just absolutely terrified. And some sort of empathic connection happened with that thing. And I knew it was absolute pure evil, whatever the hell it was. And it was going to kill us. Now, I was a merchant mariner, which means I worked on rivers with grown men delivering cargo and supplies up and down the river. So I can handle myself. I'm a pretty tough girl. I had no chance. I had zero chance of doing anything against that thing. Um, whatever it was, looked at me with complete hate, and then it dove for my sister. And I kicked off the wall behind me in some kind of adrenaline rush. And as I went through the doorway, there was I can't even explain it, some incredible burst of light, the purest light I have ever seen in my life. It was so bright. It was like a photo bulb going off in your eyes. And my sister and I were actually light blind for a few minutes after that. And it disappeared. And we turned on the lights and we sat there for a few minutes and went, oh my God, what the heck was that? And we left the apartment. We went to a restaurant, a Sherry's restaurant, and actually stayed there for several hours until daylight because we didn't know what to think. And I'm sorry if that story offends folks, but that stuff happened. And my sister is right here on the channel right now, and she can confirm that this happened. So that got me interested in what was it? Why was it there? It wasn't anything we summoned. We weren't into the paranormal at all. Yeah.
Do you think it, do you, knowing what you know now after learning everything, do you think you can pinpoint what it is? Was it a shadow person? Was it a slender man? Was it, an interdimensional being? Was it jinn? What do you think?
Sure. So from my research, no, it wasn't, we didn't make that light. That was some third party helping us. But from the research that I've done since then, what I saw seems to fit the description of the Hat Man phenomenon. And I believe that there is a lot of empirical evidence to say that, a lot of people have had these kind of experiences. A lot of RH negatives have had paranormal or ET encounters. And so this is not unusual for us as a group. And I believe that that thing, whatever it was there for, it was going after my sister because she was the youngest. And I don't know, but that is what got me started in the road to learning about why would something come after us. We're nobody, we're not important, I don't matter a damn in the world. There's no reason something like that should have happened to us, especially when we weren't seeking it out. But there does seem to be a lot of interest in RH negatives. So I don't know if she was there to be taken or harvested or what, but whatever happened there, we were fortunately saved. So that's kind of what got us started into investigating our own genetic history to find out what was going on. We've never seen it again, thank God.
Richards wrote, this just ties in with what you said. Richard says there's no such things as abductees. They are people with psychological problems or people who are con men. So obviously you've just told us your story there. So, we, just look at David Pilates. I don't know if you've heard of David Pilates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's pointing out that people are really going missing. They're not just, con men or psychological problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your experience.
And I've actually met David Pilates. He and I and my sister were able to meet and speak at a Bigfoot convention that he was speaking at here just about 3 months ago. David is a world-class researcher. The guy is very solid and very fact-based. And he confirmed a lot of my research and what I was telling.
Philomene is paused there for a moment with the thing, but for those of you who don't know who David Pilates is just search missing 411
There's
on the internet. Oh, you're back now.
Yeah, David is a consummate researcher. Yeah, David is a consummate researcher. We've actually met him and spoken with him, my sister and I, Val, because I wanted to go over our experience and some other information that we had, and he verified it. There's a plethora of evidence that shows that people have experienced abductions and interactions. So, if folks are afraid of that information, it doesn't fit their paradigm, that's okay. But I think you're better off trying to keep an open mind.
MLG 1965 wrote, why is the scientific community so reluctant to investigate aliens or the paranormal given the data? I know my reasons why I think they don't want to, because it would change our history. And I'm guessing the same goes for you.
I think if we ever knew the full body count of people who have died or been killed because of research, because of investigation, because certain parties didn't want information to be known, I think it would be horrifying. And so there's a lot of danger in disclosure, and there's been a lot of medical science investigation about Rh negatives. But as I said, a lot of that information is difficult to find or it's restricted. Uh, Hitler during World War II, Rh negative blood type was actually discovered in 1917. But when Hitler was running the camps, he was doing medical experiments on folks. And they quickly figured out that Rh negatives were a part of their population because some of the experiments that they were putting people through were creating what they called psychic flares. And this is according to the case files of the Ahnenerbe, which were the occult sciences division of the Nazi regime. And those bastards ran around and murdered everybody and then stole all of their information and relics about ancient history. So if a psychopath like Hitler had so much interest in Rh negatives that he actually created special forces units that were Rh negative amongst his own troops and tatted their blood type on the inside of their arm, which is one of the ways that we were able to hunt the Nazis down afterward. Oh, except for all the scumbags we brought over to the US to develop our space program, but we're not going to go there. Anywho, so that is an actual history fact, folks. You can look that up.
Wow, that's amazing. Metro Prolo has wrote, yeah, I think the Neanderthals built the pyramids. Makes sense to me. I mean, from
Could have.
your knowledge,
Who knows?
I just don't think they would have been able to. Well, I mean, just everything that I've read leads me to believe that it's the Anunnaki using sound
Mm-hmm.
technologies.
Oh yeah, you can even see that now. If you guys have ever seen and you can look it up on YouTube, find a little frog sitting in a puddle of water, chirping, and you'll see that the sound waves actually manifest in the water as little ripples, right? So they're affecting the reality, the physical mass that the little frog is sitting in because of his vocal noises. Well, if you read the Bible and the Talmud and the Quran and all these other books, you'll find out that they're priests. They're the reason that they would sing and use intonal language to do their prayer work was because that frequency, that tone, is what allows access to higher and lower frequencies of reality and matter. And we know that this is true because of current studies by Michio Kaku, Tesla, Einstein, all these folks who are studying frequency. Einstein said that reality is really just an onion of frequency that exists on different levels based on the frequency of the signature of the being interacting with it. And those gamma radiation studies that I was referring to earlier, one of the other things that they bombarded Rh negative cells with, besides radiation, which we also have a higher resistance to, they bombarded them with frequencies to see what would happen. And they found that our cells oscillate at a higher frequency. People have apparently a frequency that they operate on.
Philomena's paused there. Just to let you know, her channel is, if you're interested in talking to her direct, she's clearly knowledgeable. Mother Abigail 74 on TikTok. Mother Abigail 74 on TikTok. Absolutely fascinating person. She's got so much knowledge there. And just to sort of carry on where she was going with, you got the walls of Jericho. If you remember the story, the trumpets blew, but obviously trumpets wouldn't bring down the walls of Jericho, but sound frequencies. Unfortunately, Philomena's just disappeared again. Hopefully, we'll get her back soon. So I'm just going to whiz through some questions here. Sandy's wrote, I died at 12. Sorry. And we aren't just meat suits. We're so much more. It's good that you're probably not afraid of death now, which is nice. Someone's wrote, Metro's wrote, don't underestimate the Neanderthals. It's just my research takes me to a smarter, larger being with technology that arrived here. So I just don't think the Neanderthals. Because if the Neanderthals were that smart, then the Anunnaki wouldn't have needed to create Homo sapiens sapiens to do the mine work. If Neanderthals could build a pyramid, then there would be no Homo sapiens sapiens because they only created them as grunt work because they were smarter than the Neanderthals. Sorry. Sorry. Hi,
Hmm.
welcome back, Philomena. So I've just given out
Yeah.
your address again, which is Mother Abigail 74, because I'm sure
Yeah.
there's so many people who want to chat to you and hopefully follow you. I would love that if people followed you.
Oh, I would.
Uh,
That would be great. Thank you.
um, M. Hutch Love has wrote OBE and NDE very common. So that's the near-death
Hmm.
experience
Hmm.
and out-of-body experience. Um,
Hmm.
there's you know there's people ask me, what research is there for when someone dies. Is, I know they say that the body loses weight, but we know that they expel gas, and we know gas actually does weigh something. So but someone was asking the other day about electrical. Is there any tests when someone's dying of magnetism or electrical type of thing?
Hmm.
So not that I'm aware of. I don't know if you know anything about that, but that would
There,
be a really.
yeah, there is actually. So the CIA just dumped a whole ton of files, research, and information. And one of the files that they've dumped is the study of the bicameral mind, how our mind interacts with electromagnetic field of everything else and creates our perceptions of reality. The CIA did a study on this. So um, that is available. You can look it up on Wikipedia, and you can also look it up on WikiLeaks as well. So when they were studying the bicameral mind, they actually did physical measurements of someone who was in the process of death. And when they finally died, they did electromagnetic readings as well as physical readings, very subtle readings on weight difference. And they could actually weigh the very small amount that the soul had as it left the body. So there are physical scientific studies about this. You just have to do your research, folks. I know it sounds crazy on the surface, but once you start studying, you start learning a lot more. And
Brilliant.
of course, they don't want to make that history openly available to folks because it would empower people to not feel so victimized. And by God, the folks that want to keep things running don't want us to feel empowered.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the fluoride in our water is used to dumb us down, to stop us possibly using our pineal gland for telepathic, like you
Our
said
food,
earlier.
our medicine, everything.
Monday's asked, what was the I'm terrible at pronunciation. Nephritis blood type. Nephritis. What was the
Uh,
nephritis blood type? I'm probably pronouncing
I
that
think
so wrong.
she, that's okay. I'm trying to find it. I think she means the Nephilim. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what, I believe O blood type is the oldest blood type, the original blood type. I think AB and all the other blood types descend from O, if that answers her question.
Oh, she did mean nephritis. Sorry,
Um,
I've just carried on scrolling down. Sorry.
no, that's okay. Yeah, I think she's correct. I think that is the better.
Brilliant. I'm just scrolling
Oh,
down, seeing what
Nephilim.
Bobby says. Hi,
Hmm.
Philomena.
Hello.
Um, uh,
And again, folks, I am not an Rh negative expert and I am not a medical professional. I am just a researcher. And as I say, I try to keep an open mind. I'm open to other sources of information. If you think something I'm saying in one of my videos is way left, flip me a citation in the comments. I'll go look at it. I'm not afraid to be challenged as long as it's respectful.
Philomena's paused again because of the storm, but Sandy's wrote, "Who believes we live under the firmament?" My research makes me think that the firmament.
So keep reading.
Philomena's back. So, okay,
Yep.
sorry. I was just talking about someone asking about, do we live under a firmament? So to me, the firmament is just the atmosphere, because when you read the one of the first texts that talks about the firmament, it says, and they were standing on Earth at this point by the description. They look up, they see stars in the heaven above the firmament. Now, obviously, heaven is space, because you wouldn't
Hmm.
be able to see stars because it would be in heaven. But they struggled. The Anunnaki struggled to get through the atmosphere, and I think all that is just the firmament. You know, the word firmament, and over the years, people have now added that that's a impenetrable dome. But I don't think so. What's your thoughts?
Mm-mm. No, I agree. I don't think that they're referring to a dome over the top of us. They may have been trying to find a word for dimension. They may have been trying to find a word for um, space. It really depends on the cultural narrative, but I don't think they're actually referring to a dome.
No. Cliff's asked, "How can you tell if you're a descendant from the Anunnaki?" So, from my point of view, there's different types of descendants. There's the ones that they created 300,000 years ago. This is just my research. 300,000 years
Hmm.
ago, which was using their DNA to create the first Homo sapiens sapien in Africa. Then later on, the Anunnaki actually bred with the Homo sapiens sapiens that they created, which obviously then created a new type of, which was the Nephilim, and then both the humans and the Nephilim ended up intermixing with the hominids that was there, such as Neanderthals, etc. So it's a big,
Cro-Magnon. Hmm.
yeah. I guess it's really, from the blood type. I guess it's really hard to know who's
Hmm.
who, because everyone did end up inbreeding and breeding as well, not just inbreeding, but normal breeding of everything.
Sure, and there's so much disinformation too, and so much of our history, as I said, is hidden. So, it's hard to tell, but Rh negative bloodlines run predominantly through the Celtic, the Nordic, um, and the sort of the Eastern European lines. So Rh negative folks, it looks like they all come from Basque Country, but that isn't true. I think there are, just like people, there's tribes, and they come from different areas. But the majority of Rh negatives are from those population groups.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just reading on.
Yes,
Um,
firmament could also mean dimensional frequency, Bobby. I agree. That could be a different way of trying to explain it.
I've only got 8 minutes left, so I'm just going to let people know
Oh,
while
yes.
you're well, if you're happy, people are loving your what you're talking about. I don't know if you
Oh, I
can,
hope
but
so.
once I finish, would you want to carry on a live on your own channel so people can just sort of look you up, Mother
Yeah.
Abigail 74? Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
99 questions and I don't think we'll get through them. So I'll be having to shoot off at 1 UK time, so in 8 minutes. But Abigail's kindly said that she will carry on her own channel, Mother Abigail. So click follow her now while you remember her name, Mother Abigail. Um, someone's wrote,
Thank you.
"You're more than welcome." I'm adopted. Did a DNA study. I'm TH negative. I'm guessing that's RH negative. Found I'm Iranian, trace Mesopotamian, and some pronunciation I can't, and Irish. So
Mm.
that's
Yeah,
that's
that's typical. Yeah, Rh negative is all through the Middle East. It's all through, like I said, Eastern and Western Europe. So that totally makes sense. The the Gypsy families have a lot of it. The Jewish families have a lot of it. So it's throughout all different blood groups of the world. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time and interest in letting me come and talk to your friends and things. I really appreciate it.
oh, you're, you're more than welcome. I mean, you've educated me more today than I have in probably the last year. So that's fantastic content you've got there, and I hope many people join and follow you. Monday's asked,
I
"What's the
think I appreciate it.
Hat Man phenomenon?" And obviously, you've got experience of that. So, what is the Hat Man phenomenon? Mother Abigail's paused there. Hopefully, she'll be back. Um, I don't know.
Oh, there we
Did
are.
you
Can you
hear
hear
that,
me?
Abby? Yeah.
Yeah, the Hat Man phenomenon. So this has been reported by millions of people all over the planet. They're all seeing the same thing. It's some kind of entity with a what looks like a black fedora and a trench coat with glowing red eyes. I believe that this could very well be Draco reptilians, or it could be part of a MyLab Black Ops program. But somebody is seeing something. If a million people say they saw a car wreck, you're going to win your court case. You saw a damn car wreck. And like I said, our experience with it was 25 years ago, before there was internet, before there was talk about anything else. So yes, I believe the Hat Man is a real phenomenon. And I believe in part the Holocaust happened because certain forces, had a vested interest in wanting to make sure that all the people they murdered in the camps and during the Holocaust were suppressed. I think that they represented a threat to their control paradigm. That's why they were targeted.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some stories, obviously, about the Nazis in Germany and stuff. They've got a lot to do with our history, haven't they? More than what we just think as a simple
Yeah.
war, as you was mentioning
Oh,
earlier
yeah.
about the blood types that they were after, etc.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
film the monuments men, but really they actually sent round SS people to Egypt and things like that to actually try and get Anunnaki
Yana
technology.
Nerby. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
Occult and Sciences Division was run by Heinrich Himmler, and he literally went around the world and stole everybody's information because they were actively trying to make contact with other dimensions or with aliens or whatever you want to call them. It's all in history.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, the
it's not
film
all conspiracy theory.
Yeah, the film
Yeah.
Hellboy sort of tries to give us a bit of that information, doesn't it? I don't know if you remember the
I
film.
I think there's a lot of disclosure that goes on very subtly in movies because we have to be prepared as a society to accept certain realities that are coming forth. And so I think that's been programming of society since, the first original Star Trek was created.
Definitely. Melissa's wrote, "I saw a black figure with glowing red eyes, and also my daughter saw the same thing." So again, you're not alone.
That is your enemy. Yeah, it is your enemy. There's nothing good about that entity.
And
And
S5
Jewish folks are very special.
S4547's wrote, "My son, he was mentioned this earlier, said that his 5-year-old son said that he saw same sort of thing, black with red eyes as well."
Yes, yes. I believe that what they do is they feed off of fear energy. I believe that that actually creates something called loosh, which these particular, and why else would you go and scare children? Why else would you scare folks? Sometimes, they don't even make any aggressive actions. They're just there. It seems like they feed off of that energy. But people are seeing something. It's real.
Yeah. One of the first things when I first started researching 30 odd years ago, one of the first things I heard was that the elites, the power above the elites are this alien race, but not like the Greys, and it feeds off of fear. And I haven't really heard it much since.
Draconians.
And of course, then when you get
Hmm.
people saying like yourself, bring it back up again, it reminds me back of what I heard back then. But people sort of stopped talking about it since then. They've sort of moved on to other sort
Hmm.
of grey productions and things like that. But yeah, so I think fear,
Yeah.
they probably like the gin also feeds off of fear as well.
Yes.
Apparently,
Hmm. And I think there's a lot of evidence to show that the jinn are a real species. They just live in a different frequency dimension than we do. And fear is its own frequency. It will draw things to you. That's my little sister right there, VT. She can verify that whole story. So the biggest weapon we have is to change our frequency from negative to positive. The Draco are not our friends.
we've heard that a lot, haven't we?
And
So
even the Native Americans of North America have stories about the Draco. Look it
do
up.
they? Okay, I've
Yeah.
not heard of this.
They called them the oh, anyway, I can't remember the name. It's on my channel. You folks will find it. Oh, the Uktena. They call them the Uktena. Hmm.
Oh wow. Okay, I've not heard that actually, so I will. That's see, fantastic. You have been today. I'm afraid my time is up, but if anyone's interested, Mother Abigail will probably do a live up straight after this on her own channel. So please somehow follow her, Mother Abigail. And I think she's gone again only because of the power cut. But I'd like to say thank you so much for all your questions. I'm afraid we didn't get through them all, obviously, but I'm sure you'll agree with me that Philomena has some fantastic information there. I'm going to have to shoot, but please go over to her, follow her now if you can, and I will catch everyone next time on my live chats. I will put this on YouTube on my own channel, Outer History. So if you've missed any of the beginning part, fascinating stuff. Talks about all sorts of things from Rh negative to other blood types, but what so it's not just blood types, but actually what can manifest from that, you know, a physical and mental differences. She was on about extra bones and webbed feet and things like that, so it's fascinating. So if you haven't already, if you wasn't listening from the beginning, I will try and put this on tonight onto my YouTube channel along with all the other videos that's there. And once again, I'm gonna have to shoot, but thank you everybody for excellent questions. I'm glad you hopefully enjoyed this, and if Philomena can hear me, I'll chat to you later. And thank you very much. Do go over to Philomena's, which is hopefully going to be doing a live now for you guys. So thank you everybody, take care, bye bye.